What exactly are the markets watching out for?
Sure. So, look, I think in terms of monetary policy, I think what they're looking for is, does the Fed interpret rising inflation, does it interpret trade tensions and materially changing its policy outlook? And I think for the moment, the answer is no. I think in the most recent Fed minutes, trade is mentioned, rising inflation is mentioned, but it seems very much on track with the Fed's expectation. And so I think in the near term, you have an alignment between what the market's expecting, what the Fed's expecting. I think as the year goes on, that tension potentially mounts. It mounts because inflation is going to be rising more. It mounts because a number of other factors potentially come on the horizon.
Andrew, how does I guess, geopolitics and how does Syria actually play into the markets? It seemed that the markets this morning are a little bit cautious, but they're not expecting any more military action. So we don't have the anxiousness that we saw on Friday.
Yeah, it's a fair question. Look, I think markets are trying to digest an enormous amount of information. They're trying to digest a large number of headlines on trade. They're trying to digest geopolitics. They have the earnings season is just getting underway. My sense is that probably what the market's going to focus on next is earnings. It's going to see that as probably the most important driver, the biggest driver for stock prices. Obviously, what's going on in the Middle East will matter, and it will probably matter most to the extent as it regards to investors, what's happening with oil prices. But I think earnings are going to have the major focus.
And earnings are expected to be okay.
I think they will be, yeah.
Mainly because of the tax cut?
Well, I think a variety of factors. I think you have, first, pretty solid underlying global economic conditions still in the first quarter. And I think this is probably the part of the tax story that's still the easiest part. The companies have gotten a large benefit, and they haven't yet had the temptation to use that money for other things that equity investors might like less. So our expectation is that the first quarter for earnings is pretty good. I think by the time you're in the third quarter of this year, the fourth quarter, the fact that the expectations are probably too high is going to be an issue. And I think that's going to be a story that will be developed over the course of the year.